Chicago Bears have officially trimmed the roster down to 53 players, and now the attention turns completely to that Week 1 clash with the Minnesota Vikings. On paper, the team looks set, but when you dig deeper, there are some real concerns that are hard to ignore. As much as fans are excited about the fresh start, the new coaching staff, and of course Caleb Williams taking his first snaps as the face of the franchise, there are three glaring issues that stand out heading into this opener. These are not small details. Either they're the type of problems that can make or break a season if they do not get fixed quickly. The first and maybe most obvious concern is the pass rush, or honestly, the lack of one. You can sugarcoat it and say it was just the preseason. You can blame it on vanilla defensive looks, or you can say the coaches are saving the real schemes for when the games matter. But even in those simplified matchups, one-on-one against another starter, you expect to see flashes. Against Kansas City, there were stretches where the Bears' defensive line looked completely invisible. Montez Sweat is supposed to be the leader of this group, the guy who just got paid big money to wreck pockets, but his name barely came up. Yes, last season he battled injuries, but he is healthy now, and with his contract, the standard is sky high. Then there's the new addition Dio Odenigbo, who was handed a pretty big paycheck himself. If you paid attention to training camp or the preseason games, you probably didn't hear his name much either, and that's not a great sign. And the depth? That's where things get even shakier. Austin Booker had some flashes early on. People were excited about his burst and potential, but now he is sidelined with an injury and could very well miss the opener. Dominique Robinson, somehow still hanging around, is banged up as well and has never really lived up to the promise he flashed his rookie year. Daniel Hardy might be a rotational guy who could contribute in special pass rush packages, but that's a situational piece, not a reliable threat. You start looking across this depth chart and realize quickly that unless Sweat suddenly takes off and becomes dominant, there just isn't anyone you can pencil in to consistently collapse the edge. That means defensive coordinator Dennis Allen is going to have to get creative. And here's where fans can breathe a little easier compared to the past. Under Matt Eberflus, the Bears were stubborn about rushing 4, dropping 7, and playing safe shell coverages. That conservative style only works if you have an elite front, and Chicago never did under him. Dennis Allen, though, is different. He has a history of disguising looks, running stunts, sending pressure from different levels, and forcing quarterbacks to think before they throw. That can mask weaknesses up front, at least for a while. But even with Allen's play calling, you still want guys who can just win one-on-one off the edge, and right now, outside of hoping Sweat rediscovers his best form, it is hard to feel good about that group. The concern level for me is high, and I don't say that lightly. On a 1 to 10 scale, it feels like an 8. When you can't pressure the quarterback consistently, it changes everything. Your corners are forced to cover longer, safeties have to play tighter, and linebackers can't afford to cheat downhill. Even if you have solid players in the back 7, all of that collapses if the quarterback has time to stand in the pocket, go through progressions, and deliver clean throws. That is exactly how games get away from you. And against a team like Minnesota, who is Justin Jefferson, a polished rookie quarterback in J.J. McCarthy, and new weapons like Adam Thielen, that becomes even more dangerous. As if the pass rush issue weren't enough, the second major red flag is injuries. Training camp had actually been relatively kind to this roster for most of the summer. Outside of Jalen Johnson being out long-term and Kyler Gordon missing a couple of weeks, things felt manageable. But recently, it has piled up in a hurry, and suddenly you look around and realize this defense is missing important names at every level. Jaquan Brisker went down, Johnson still hasn't practiced, TJ Edwards is hurt, Austin Booker is sidelined, Dominique Robinson is hurt, Tremaine Edmonds has been limited, and the rookie second-round pick Jervin Dexter hasn't been able to get much time either. That is a huge collection of starters and rotational players all dealing with something at once. The Bears did bring in reinforcements like Jalen Jones and DeMarco Jackson off waivers. But let's be real. Those are depth pieces, not guys you want starting against divisional opponents in prime time. And it is not just about week 1. Football is a war of attrition. If you already have this many guys banged up before the season even starts, what happens in November and December? Can you count on them to be healthy when the schedule gets brutal? That is the bigger picture question. But even short term, going into a game against Minnesota and then Detroit right after, those are two explosive offenses that will expose any weakness you have. If Brisker or Johnson can't go, if Edwards or Edmonds are limited, that suddenly puts enormous pressure on young players or backups who simply haven't shown they can handle that type of responsibility. And then there's the third big problem, one that has been talked about all summer: left tackle. This is one of those positions where you want stability, where ideally the competition in camp is about depth, not about who is going to protect your rookie quarterback's blind side. But here we are, days away from the opener, and it feels like Braxton Jones is only starting because no one else stepped up. The coaches wanted someone to grab that job and make it obvious. That never happened. Joe Alt, the highly drafted rookie, hit a wall in camp and had to move back to the right side. Larry Borum never seriously pushed for the role, so by default, it is Jones. Now, Braxton Jones has experience. He has started 40 games in the league, and in the run game, he has always been above average. But in pass protection, the problems are real. He gave up 5 pressures in just 42 snaps during the preseason, a rate that is flat-out concerning. He also surrendered a sack and looked especially vulnerable to inside moves. That's not a one-off thing either. It's been his weakness going back to last year. He's always been an athletic tackle, light on his feet, able to mirror speed, but coming off the ankle injury, he hasn't shown the same quickness. If you're not strong enough to anchor against bull rushes and you're not quick enough to handle inside counters, then you're basically asking for your quarterback to take extra hits. The only silver lining is that veteran guard Joe Thuney will be playing next to him. That can mask some mistakes, especially when it comes to picking up twists or helping anchor against power. But at the end of the day, there are no hiding spots at left tackle. Defenses line up their best rushers there for a reason. And for a young quarterback like Caleb Williams, who needs to feel comfortable, who needs that confidence early in his career, shaky blindside protection is the last thing you want. If he's constantly worrying about pressure from his back, it stunts his development. So when you line it all up, a weak pass rush, injuries across the defense, and a left tackle position that feels like it was won by default, you understand why Bears fans are nervous heading into this season opener. Sure, there are positives. Caleb Williams has looked poised. The offensive scheme under Ben Johnson seems more creative, more modern, and more aggressive than what we've seen in years. DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, and Cole Kmet give Williams real weapons to throw to. The running game should be steady with DeAndre Swift and Isaiah Monangai. There is talent, but football games are often decided in the trenches and by health. And right now, those two areas are big question marks for Chicago. The pressure may very well shift onto the offense in Week 1. Originally, many thought the Bears' defense would need to carry things early while the offense worked through rookie growing pains. But with so many defenders hurt and with no real faith in the pass rush, it might be Williams and the offense that have to score 28 or 30 points to win instead of 20. That is a lot to ask of a rookie quarterback in his first NFL start, but that might be the reality when you're facing Minnesota under the lights in a divisional game with primetime pressure. When you look ahead at what this season could mean for the Chicago Bears, it's impossible not to think about the bigger picture. Week 1 against the Vikings is obviously the immediate challenge, but zoom out a little bit, and you see a schedule that doesn't exactly give this team much breathing room. After Minnesota, you turn right around and face the Detroit Lions, who might be the most complete team in the division and one of the most dangerous in the entire NFC. Then the stretch keeps stacking. High-powered offenses, teams with established quarterbacks, and defenses that can bring pressure. So when you combine those upcoming matchups with the Bears' current roster concerns, the urgency is undeniable. Let's circle back to the defensive side of the ball for a second, because that's where the identity of this franchise has always been tied. Chicago football has traditionally been built on tough, physical defenses that set the tone, from the monsters of the Midway to the Ehrlicher and Briggs era. Fans crave that kind of dominance. But right now, it feels like this defense is teetering on the edge of becoming just good enough rather than truly intimidating. Injuries have a lot to do with that, but there's also the reality that the roster construction didn't fully solve long-standing problems. The defensive line is the best example. Montez Sweat was a necessary move, but he can't do it alone. Every great pass rusher in the league has help. Look at Myles Garrett, look at Nick Bosa, look at TJ Watt. They all have complementary pieces that force offenses to pick their poison. The Bears don't have that yet. And if you can double-team Sweat and trust that the other three linemen won't beat you, then it limits his impact dramatically. That's why Dennis Allen's system is so crucial. His scheme can elevate players who aren't superstars. He can bring pressure with linebackers, disguise coverages to confuse quarterbacks, and force mistakes. But the danger is relying on that too heavily. Blitzing can backfire. If the secondary isn't healthy, if Jalen Johnson or Kyler Gordon are out, suddenly you're asking backups to play man coverage against receivers like Justin Jefferson or Amon-Ra St. Brown. That's not a winning formula. It turns into a gamble. Either get home with the blitz or get torched downfield. And that's the tightrope this Bears defense may have to walk early in the season. That's the tension surrounding the Bears as they enter this opener. Excitement mixed with anxiety, hope balanced against realism. And the truth is, we won't get answers until the games start. Preseason hints at things, training camp gives glimpses, but when the lights come on, when it's prime time against a divisional rival, that's when we'll see who steps up and who falls short. And that's when we'll start to learn whether this new chapter of Bears football is ready to take flight, or whether the same old problems are going to keep dragging them down. Before we continue, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give this video a like. Your support helps us keep bringing you the latest updates on our Chicago Bears. And don't be shy. Drop your thoughts on the news in the comments below. The NFL world has been set ablaze with the latest shocking rumor confirming a monumental trade that has been circulating for weeks. The Chicago Bears have officially closed the deal to acquire Myles Garrett from the Cleveland Browns. Sources close to the situation, speaking on condition of anonymity, have indicated that the trade negotiations had been in motion for months, with both franchises maneuvering quietly behind closed doors to finalize a deal that could reshape their respective seasons dramatically. Fans have been buzzing on social media, dissecting every snippet of information, every hint dropped by insiders and analysts, and this confirmation has sent the football community into a frenzy. The Bears, known for making strategic yet sometimes unpredictable moves in recent years, appear to have gone all in to secure Garrett's services, signaling a clear intent to bolster their defensive front in a way that could change the trajectory of their team for years to come. Meanwhile, speculation continues about what Cleveland might receive in return, with rumors hinting at a combination of draft picks and young talent, a package that could also redefine the Browns' strategy moving forward. Analysts are already predicting ripple effects across the league, with opponents reevaluating their offensive plans in light of Garrett's arrival in Chicago. Myles Garrett, a dominant force on the defensive line, is expected to bring an unparalleled level of intensity and skill to the Bears roster, potentially altering the way opposing teams approach each game. Observers note that Garrett's ability to disrupt both the quarterback and the running game could turn Chicago's defense into one of the most formidable units in the NFL, provided the team can integrate him effectively into their existing scheme. The trade, which had been the subject of relentless speculation, now carries an almost mythic aura among fans, who are imagining Garrett sacking quarterbacks in Soldier Field and leading a revitalized defensive charge that could lift the Bears to contention. Analysts have also been discussing the psychological impact on the locker room, suggesting that the presence of a high-caliber player like Garrett might galvanize younger players, encourage veterans to elevate their performance, and create a new culture of competitiveness. The Browns, on the other hand, face the delicate task of filling the void left by Garrett, a challenge that will test their front office's ingenuity and strategic planning, especially in terms of maintaining defensive cohesion and ensuring that the team's future prospects remain strong despite losing a cornerstone player. The drama surrounding the trade has already sparked heated debates among fans, journalists, and former players alike, adding layers of intrigue and anticipation to what is already being called one of the season's defining moments. As news of the trade spreads, speculation about the precise motivations behind the move has intensified, with insiders suggesting that the Bears sought an opportunity to capitalize on Garrett's peak performance years while simultaneously sending a message about the team's ambitions. The trade is being interpreted by some as a bold statement, signaling that Chicago is unwilling to settle for mediocrity and is prepared to make aggressive moves to contend in the highly competitive NFC North. Observers are also noting the timing of the trade, which comes ahead of a critical stretch of games and off-season roster evaluations, raising questions about how Garrett's integration will affect team chemistry, play calling, and defensive strategy. Meanwhile, rumors abound regarding the behind-the-scenes negotiations, including speculation about which key figures within the Bears management were instrumental in pushing the deal across the finish line, the role of agents in facilitating discussions, and the subtle power dynamics between coaching staff, ownership, and the league office. Fans are debating whether the Bears' front office might have overpaid or whether this acquisition represents a calculated risk that could pay enormous dividends if Garrett performs at the level expected. Social media platforms are flooded with images, highlight reels, and commentary dissecting Garrett's career achievements, his statistical impact, and how his presence might disrupt opposing offenses, turning speculation into near-constant online conversation that underscores the enormous interest surrounding this blockbuster trade. The potential consequences of Garrett joining the Bears extend far beyond the immediate defensive impact, touching on long-term strategic considerations, marketing opportunities, and team identity. Observers are theorizing that this move could influence future draft decisions, salary cap allocations, and even coaching philosophies, as integrating a player of Garrett's caliber requires careful planning and adaptation. Speculation has also grown regarding how this trade might affect other players within the Bears roster, particularly young defensive linemen and linebackers who may now be learning alongside one of the league's most feared pass rushers, potentially accelerating their development and reshaping the defensive hierarchy. Meanwhile, the Browns' perspective remains a hot topic of conversation, with insiders suggesting that the organization is focused on leveraging the trade assets acquired from Chicago to build depth, address positional weaknesses, and maintain competitiveness in a division where every small advantage counts. The broader NFL community is watching closely, anticipating whether other teams might respond with similar high-profile moves or if this trade could trigger a wave of defensive realignments and strategic rethinking across the league. In addition, the human element, the reaction of fans, the locker room atmosphere, and the narrative of Garrett embracing a new city adds layers of intrigue to the story, making it far more than a mere transaction, but rather a saga that could define the Bears' season and the league's landscape for years to come. In the aftermath of the trade confirmation, the atmosphere surrounding the Bears organization has shifted into one of heightened expectation, intense media scrutiny, and palpable anticipation among supporters. Rumors suggest that team meetings, practice sessions, and playbook reviews are now being reimagined to accommodate Garrett's strengths while optimizing overall team performance. Fans are speculating on potential matchups, imagining Garrett clashing with some of the league's elite quarterbacks, and debating how his presence will change the team's defensive schemes from week to week. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to stay updated with exclusive news about our Chicago Bears, be sure to subscribe to our channel and hit that like button. We can't wait to hear your thoughts in the comments. See you in the next video.